Hi there, it's Luke here from IAM,
And Andy from IAM.
and today we're going to demystify the compliance aspect around patching and mending of assets. It is not a strategy. And what do I mean by that? Well, patching and mending might feel cheap today to go and do a patch or amend because you're postponing what the full bill is going to be. And I would argue that that costs you significantly more in time, effort, and ultimately cost.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there are limited budgets in schools, and I know that in the estates management strategy, you have the renewal and retrofit, which I think is classified as the middle lane. So those other two lanes are patch and mend, I think, which is reactive, and I think rebuild is the full replacement. That's the other lane. So three sort of clear lanes there. I think that preserving the asset is great, but ultimately you are, if you are continuing to patch and mend, you are delaying your day of reckoning of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had good example for us, and this will be, every school will experience this story that I'm about to tell you now, because it goes across the board. We had a flat roof in the school. It was above the kitchen. Had a flat roof in the school. It leaked, went up. It was a very old roof that had been put on years before, so it was due to get replaced anyway. Obviously, the bursar disagreed with the replacement because there's the cost. Doesn't matter the condition of the asset, it's the condition of the cost that mattered. So we patched, repaired it. It lasted a short while, and lo and behold, it rained, the water came through. And again, because it was in the kitchen area, that caused us a lot of problems. So instead of just replacing the roof completely, we just constantly patch repaired it. Over the years, patch repair. And the cost of the patch repairs, ultimately over 5 years, was the cost of replacing the roof. Now, it's not just down to the cost of things, it's every time we had a repair, I had to get a roofer in, we had to go up on the roof, we had to look at the roof, get his quote off him, go through the process of submitting it to the bursar approves it, job gets done. When the work team came in to do the roof, because it invariably happened during school time, because obviously it was causing a problem, that involved a member of staff to keep an eye on them, to escort them around the school, do all the bits and pieces associated with having external people on. That's every single time. So the amount of time that was costing me in manpower.
And you could quantify that, could you? You could quantify. I mean, you being you would go and have that on a separate spreadsheet somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Because you love spreadsheets. But ultimately, I think that's where kind of the gut feel kind of, I just need to continue to gut feel. Because I mean, the reality here is that schools genuinely have no budget for these alternative sort of plans to go and measure. So that it's worth laying that out on the table, that we're giving the ideal thing is to go replace the whole thing, blah blah blah. But telling somebody that they need to stop patching is not enough. There needs to be an understanding that there is a sort of here and now. And in the world of again, go back to the sort of before I started working within school, the education space, the sort of corporate FM space, life cycle costing and life cycle costing analysis is a big topic. It is front and center of everything. You're running an asset, and again, that's another topic, because I don't think schools really see buildings as sort of assets. I think they see them as cost centers, and I think the mindset needs to shift there as well. But I think that the whole kind of concept of life cycle costing is fairly alien in schools, because it is a here and now. And again, we've spoken before about sort of where to put money in each bucket. And I think in terms of planning in bucket 3 is kind of the same thing in terms of things like the rebuild of what we're saying in lane 3 for a sort of patch and mend strategy. I think there is a mindset of I can't do this. But I think the way around that, certainly with this new directive that schools are going to have when they close out the SIF bids and open this renewal and retrofit thing, there is a budget of 710 million quid. I think that will be enhanced if it goes to plan. But I think, again, we keep flying the flag of the fact that everything is going data led. I think if you can sort of evidence this sort of patching and patching and mending, then it kind of weakens the case, I suppose, for any kind of strategic spend. That it's patch and mend, patch and mend, patch and mend. So what I'm suggesting is that from what you've just said, that actually the thing to do is to evidence not just the cost of the patch and mend, but the knock-on effect of everything else that has gone alongside that.
Absolutely.
As the evidence that you need to go and find the money to go and get this done in whatever capacity, because evidence will always beat a narrative.
Yeah.
And that's the important part, is evidence always beats the narrative. So data will always improve your position when it comes to asking for money as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, I mean, is there a sort of rule of thumb in terms of outside of just the job itself? Was it always like 20%, 30% extra cost for you to organise your time, the other site's member staff, you going up to and having a discussion, you getting the approval from the trustees, etc.? Did you ever was there ever a point in time where you thought, do you know what, this is actually costing us double the amount of time they were actually sort of doing it, and the knock-on effect to actually having the disturbance in the school as well might go against sort of pupil attainment as well, I think.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of mechanisms that you ever did to sort of measure that?
Well, you know the answer to that, because of course there was. So I would have the extra cost implication. So somebody has spent 2 hours with the contractor that's come in and fix the site, so that's 2 hours of salary. Also the time, so they've spent 2 hours out that way. And then I would have an impact. And the impact is, for example, I've had to give up a member of my site team for half a day to go and sort this roof or do the stuff with the contractor. In that half day, that member of the site team could have done all my Legionella checks for the month, could have done all my fire safety checks for the month. And if you relate it into that aspect, people then start realising that time, people know this anyway, but time is so precious in the school. But I think the main thing I found was trying to get the mindset into the right place. So people think if you patch repair a roof, you've got a new roof. And you're old enough, like me, to remember the days of Only Fools and Horses. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember Trigger?
Yeah.
Well, Trigger got an award once because he kept the same broom for over 20 years. And when they were talking in the pub, in the Nag's Head, when they were talking in the pub, it transpired that Trigger had replaced the head 20 times and had replaced the shaft 30 times. So he hadn't had the same thing. And that's how people think.
Yeah.
They think, if I replace the brush head, I've got a new brush. You haven't. You've got a new brush head and a 3-year-old brush shaft. And that's the thinking, and that applies. There's only 2 components in that. But on a roof, people think, I'll put a 6-inch square patch of bitumen over this hole and I've got a new roof that's good for another 25 years. And it doesn't work like that. And that's the mindset that needs to change. So
when we look at bidding for some of this funding that comes through on this renewal and retrofit thing, we need to put aside the kind of drama around what's gone on. And actually, I think it's about evidencing. Like you said, I mean, if you go back to Trigger's broom, for example, Trigger could have, the ideal thing for him to do would have been to evidence that I've changed the brush head 20 times, and I've changed the shaft 15. And that's the evidence to show that you obviously need in that case, you probably don't need a new broom because you've got a new, but it comes back again to strategic planning. So strategic planning and data. The strategic planning element of it is, what does this estate look like 5 years from now? What are the things along this journey in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years that are going to need attention? And what is it that we do now? Again, it goes back to, the world of corporate FM, commercial FM is how big, how major life cycle costing is, and they do things like criticality studies around assets as well. But life cycle costing is a major factor, and I just think that patch and mend might feel cheap today, but actually, when you think about it, over time, it is probably the most expensive lane to be in out of all of them. And I think that it's great for us to sit here and say you need to be repairing rather than patching and mending. And I understand that schools don't have the budget to be able to do that. Strategic planning, data is really going to be the key point to win here. And I think that understanding what that is, I think is the real big takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Another great chat, Andre. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See you at the next one.
Take care all.
Take care. Bye-bye.